Chapter 34, incorrectly labeled as Chapter 39. Page 392. Robert Gordon's 7 Days. On July 20 he had completed all preparations and had all his armies and all the airships and planes equipped with the sleeping gas machines. Instructions had been given that they should pass over the lines from the Gulf of Mexico to the Great Lakes, from Los Angeles to Seattle, and send forth the sleeping gas and put to sleep entire enemy armies, so that they would be kept asleep for 7 days. He decided to notify all of the commanding generals of the Allied enemy just what he was going to do so that they would realize and know what power he had, and instructed them to have all their commanding officers moved to places where they would not be molested or put to sleep, so that they might watch and know what was happening. The Allied enemy were notified that they could make every attempt to protect themselves but that it would be useless, because they would be unable to see or hear the approach of the silent invisible planes. He called Colonel Walter Kenilworth and Colonel Edna Kenilworth to his headquarters, thanked them for their services to the country, assured them of his appreciation of their loyalty and devotion and promoted them to the rank of general. He ordered General Walter Kenilworth to take charge of headquarters in New York, operate the sleeping gas machine and to use the demon of death in case of emergency. However, he felt sure that there would be no more attacks. General Edna Kenilworth was ordered to Washington to resume charge in the Capitol building and operate the machines for defense if necessary. In bidding goodbye to his loyal comrades, he told them that he was going to take Marie the Angel of Mercy, and was going alone to London, Berlin, Moscow, Madrid, Tokyo and destroy buildings in these cities and with the light ray put every city in darkness, put the people to sleep and leave them for 7 days. Then he would destroy or conquer every important city in the world in 6 days, just the same as God created the world in 6 days, and that on the 7th day he would return to New York City and await the action of the Allied nations in regard to peace. He ordered all of the countries notified by radio that he would leave New York City on Marie the Angel of Mercy, which could make 1,000 miles an hour, and when he arrived in London and other cities everyone should be out of the buildings which he would destroy with the demon of death. That this was to be a mission of mercy and that he would not destroy one life if possible but that he must demonstrate the power that he could destroy all life and buildings if necessary. The world was astounded and amazed but of course did not believe that there was any such invention or any such power in the hands of any one man, or any one nation. At 7 a.m. on July 21, Supreme Commander Gordon sailed away in the Marie the Angel of Mercy and in a little over 3 hours he was over London. He notified them to clear all the big buildings on Lombard and Downing streets. They were unable to see his plane or hear it but they knew that he was somewhere over London in the air. The people were frightened and cleared out of the buildings. Women and children were taken away to safety and slowly the death ray started to do its work. The big buildings crumbled away, slowly melting down as though they were butter. The people fell upon their knees in the streets and prayed to God to save them from this great invisible force. Many people believed that it was an unseen power from heaven that had come to destroy the world and that this was the end of the world. When he had completed the destruction of enough buildings to show them his power, he circled over London time and time again, sending forth the sleeping gas and the people all succumbed and went to sleep. With the power from his machine he extinguished all the electric lights in the city and left it in darkness. The news of this terrible disaster was sent from London to the Allied enemy headquarters in the United States. Supreme Commander Gordon then proceeded on the following day to Berlin. He intended to teach the Germans a lesson that they never would forget. He would show mercy that they had never shown because not one woman or child would be harmed, but protected. Not one human life would be taken, but he would make the destruction of buildings in Berlin so complete that they would never forget his visit. He would remind them that the Kaiser and all of the great German armies were powerless when Marie the Angel of Mercy sent forth its destructive rays and sleeping gas. He sailed over Berlin and notified everyone to clear out of the buildings. He destroyed all of the important buildings on the business streets, turned loose his sleeping gas and left Berlin in darkness, to sleep for 7 days. When he had completed the bombardment of the buildings in Berlin, he sent a message to the President of France that he would be in Paris within the next hour to thank him personally for the great aid that France had given us in the war. The President notified him that France would declare a holiday and give him a reception greater than that tendered Captain Lindbergh when he landed there on May 21, 1927. He informed the president that his time was limited, but in appreciation of the friendship of France he would anchor Marie the Angel of Mercy over Paris and arrange lights to play upon her to make her visible so the people could see this wonderful ship. He left Berlin and was in Paris in a short time. France had sent thousands of her planes into the air signaling the Marie. They could not see her, and Supreme Commander Gordon communicated with them by radio and anchored near the same spot where Lindbergh had landed over 5 years before. He was taken aboard one of France's airplanes and carried to the president, who greeted him cordially, kneeled and kissed his cheeks and hands. Thanked him for the inventions which he had made which would end war for all time. Supreme Commander Gordon had brought a letter from the President of the United States thanking France for her support and assuring them of our loyalty and support forever in the future. He told the President of his plan for a United Kingdom of the world. How he was going to call all the nations to New York for a peace conference when the war was over, which he was assured would be when he returned to New York. The President assured him that France would be very happy to be the first nation to join with the United States in the brotherhood of man to make it a United Kingdom of the world. He told the President of France that he had brought with him on board the Marie one of his tunnel machines which he wanted to place in one of the tallest buildings, establish a tunnel through the air between New York and Paris so that their airships could pass in safety through the tunnel to New York, or if any of the officers in Canada wanted to come home, they could proceed to New York and travel through the tunnel to Paris. He tested out this machine after it had been set up, sent one of the planes to New York through the tunnel, and the round trip was made in 1 hour and 30 minutes. He explained to the President that by establishing a vacuum, it was possible to drive the machines in safety at a terrific speed. He instructed Louis Corday, one of the famous aces of the French Aviation Corps, how to handle the tunnel machine. Then Supreme Commander Gordon went to Lisbon and Madrid, Spain, destroyed their most important buildings and put the people to sleep for 7 days. Then proceeded to Rome where he destroyed all the fine cathedrals, business and government buildings. Before arriving there he had notified the Pope to get all the people out of the buildings and instructed him where to go for safety, telling him he did not wish to give him the sleeping gas but wanted him to be awake to pray during the 7 days while all the inhabitants were asleep. Told him that his people must be taught that God is more powerful than any ruler or potentate and that the time would come when there must be one religion, one united kingdom of the world and one God. From there he proceeded to the beautiful city of Vienna and having the people removed from the buildings, turned on the demon of death and melted the buildings down. Discharging sleeping gas from his machine, he said goodbye to Vienna and proceeded to Moscow. The poor and uneducated people of Russia had been warned of his coming. The newspapers told them what had been happening in other cities, but the people refused to believe that they would not be destroyed. Many of them rushed to the waters and drowned themselves. Others went to the forest to hide. Moscow was more excited than ever before. People had been praying day and night before he arrived. Finally, when he was over Moscow, he sent a radio message that they should clear all the important buildings which he was going to destroy. He descended very low and located the buildings, and when he had been notified that the people had been moved to safety, turned on the demon of death. As the buildings leapt into flames and the people could see them, they were sure that this was the end of the world and that God was destroying it by fire, because they were unable to see the source from which the destruction was coming, the destroying rays from the machine being invisible and Marie the Angel of Mercy being invisible. When he had finished the destruction of the buildings, he turned loose the sleeping gas, darkened the city and sailed for Constantinople. He had notified the terrible Turks, who had sent such destructive airships to help conquer the United States, that he was going to open the Dardanelles from the air and destroy the battleships in the Black Sea. When he arrived and all buildings were cleared, people were greatly frightened and some of them were praying to America's God to save them. Supreme Commander Gordon assured them that no lives would be taken. He then proceeded to destroy all their largest buildings, discharged the death rays into the water and blew up their ships, left the city in darkness to sleep in peace. His next stop was at Alexandria and Cairo, Egypt. He visited the pyramids, notified the people that they were placed there according to a divine plan and that he would not destroy them. He destroyed the main buildings and blew up the warships, leaving the people asleep as he had done in other cities. He notified the people in Bombay, India, that they had taken sides with England against us and that they must be shown an example of the power of the land of freedom. He destroyed their temples and large buildings and put the people asleep. Then went to Peking, China, where he destroyed buildings which had stood for thousands of years, discharged the sleeping gas and proceeded to Tokyo. The Japs had been the first to declare war upon the United States and make an attack, and they must be taught a lesson which they would remember so long as the world stood. He ordered all the men removed from their battleships and proceeded to discharge the death rays into the water and destroy them. When he began to destroy the important buildings, the people thought that it was another earthquake because they had not forgotten how their buildings had crumbled down years before. He assured them that no lives would be taken, that they would be allowed to sleep for 7 days in peace, leaving the city in darkness and the inhabitants asleep. He proceeded to Melbourne and Sydney, Australia. Australia had remained neutral and was friendly to the United States. He carried a letter of thanks from the President of the United States to the people of Australia, thanked them personally and told them that they were now invited to join the United States in forming the Brotherhood of Man in the United Kingdom. The City of Mexico was next notified that they would have the final and greatest demonstration of the power of Marie the Angel of Mercy. The Mexicans and Spaniards knew that Supreme Commander Gordon was born in the state of Texas. They remembered the Battle of the Alamo and Goliad. The poor class of Mexicans refused to believe, after Mexico had joined with Japan and Spain against the United States, that any Texan would spare their lives. They had prayed day and night since they learned that the Supreme Commander of the United States with Marie the Angel of Mercy was to visit them. He told them that this machine took its power from the air and that the rays were powerful enough to melt down the mountains, and that he would destroy some of the mountains of Mexico and all the old pyramids. Before he reached the City of Mexico, he anchored over a mountain, turned on the death ray, and the mountain crumbled to dust. The old pyramids were also destroyed. When he reached the City of Mexico, he informed them that he had destroyed the mountains to fulfill the prophecies in the Bible which said that every mountain should be laid low and every valley should be exalted. A large part of forces of the enemy and their officers were located in the City of Mexico, and they were notified to flee to the mountains and hills where they could watch the destruction of the buildings. The Supreme Commander of the United States said that they would not be put to sleep because he wanted them to watch the silent, sleeping city while it remained in darkness for 7 days. When he had completed his destruction of the City of Mexico, he sent a message by radio to New York and Washington that he was on his way home and would pass over the enemy's lines in California and in the central part of the United States, sending them messages all along giving his location and offering to let the officers take a shot at Marie the Angel of Mercy if they could see her. He knew that Marie could rise to a height of 60 miles or more if necessary, and intended to fly at a height to which no enemy plane could ever ascend. Supreme Commander Gordon sent a message to his old hometown, Texarkana, Texas, that he would anchor there and give everybody a view of Marie the Angel of Mercy. When he arrived there, he circled over his own old home out near Red River. Then sailed the Marie down State Line Avenue and anchored her in the air about 100 feet above the street. He turned on the lights and made his great ship visible, so the people could see what had accomplished the great victory. It was the greatest celebration that Texarkana ever had. The people went wild with joy. His dear old mother was the happiest woman in the world. She greeted him affectionately, told him that all her dreams about him had come true. He could only make a short visit as he had to hurry on to New York. He notified Montreal, Canada, that he would arrive there early on the morning of the 7th day. Montreal prepared for a great celebration. He arrived there soon after sunrise, anchored the Marie, and delivered a message to the people of Canada, thanking them for their loyalty and aid in our behalf. Invited them to be among the first to join in the peace conference in making the United States of the world. After bidding them goodbye, he sailed for New York, arriving just before noon on the 7th day after he had sailed away on his great trip around the world. Marie the Angel of Mercy circled over New York and landed at the Monmouth Building. General Walter Kenilworth was on duty and reported what had happened during Supreme Commander Gordon's absence, although he had kept in touch with him by radio all the time and informed him what was going on. Supreme Commander Gordon's orders had been carried out the day he left on his 7-day tour of the world, and sleeping gas sprayed over all the enemy lines throughout the United States.